Okay, so now that I've watched the Fallout TV show, I wanted to make a quick video on my thoughts on it without any spoilers. You know, a lot of people are talking about the show, and it's clearly been a little polarizing. You know, a lot of people are saying it's good, but then a few people are saying it's really bad. So I basically just wanted to give my opinion on it real quick. You know, as someone who's played every main Fallout game, you know, 1, 2, 3, New Vegas, 4, even 76, you know, I feel like I'm in a good position to really like talk about what they got right and what they didn't. Of course, though, I'm not going to get into anything that really spoils the plot. All right, so the first thing that I want to address is it good, right? You know, that's kind of like the most important question, and I'd say it's okay. There's definitely a lot of good parts about the show. So I think I'd probably put it about on par with like the first season of The Witcher, if you've ever seen that, where it's like once an episode, there's just gonna be like maybe like a 2-minute scene that's just kind of like that scene didn't really make sense, or like didn't really fit in with the lore quite right, or, you know, there's just something weird about it, or like, but you know, they're basically making like a 9-hour long movie, like if you think about it. So there's a lot of room for mistakes, and given how much room there is for mistakes, they've actually done a pretty good job at keeping it consistent with the lore. There's a lot of little details that are consistent with the lore that they really didn't have to do. You know, things a lot of people mention are just like the stuff like the different brands are lore accurate. You know, like they have like Glamco mac and cheese and all that. They use Stimpak. They talk about like the power armor models by name, and overall it's just like pretty accurate. But then there are like some, I don't know if I'd call them changes necessarily, but like just like little things that kind of didn't quite sit right with me, I guess, in the show. So in the trailer that came out like right before the show came out, and the trailer that really made me skeptical of the show, is you have the scene where the character from the vault encounters a ghoul, and then a Brotherhood of Steel member shows up. And there's a few problems with the scene, but the guy from the Brotherhood of Steel basically acted like Iron Man. Like he had like those wrist rocket jets, the helmet that folds up, and they would go into like a camera view inside his helmet all the time, which is just like super Iron Man. Yeah, it's a little annoying because they do that a few other times throughout the show, but at the same time, it's one of the biggest changes they make about it, and it's kind of implied, and this really isn't a spoiler because it's just kind of like an offhanded comment that doesn't affect the plot at all, but it's implied that his particular suit of power armor is modded. But in kind of like a positive note, so if you were one of the people that really disliked the gun design in Fallout 4, you know, specifically that assault rifle, well, so you may know that it's in the show, but it's actually one of the like least common guns you'll see. So, you know, if you go back to like previous Fallout games, like before Fallout 4, they had a lot more like conventional guns, and what's interesting about the show is they have that. And so they are like guns that haven't ever been in the show before, but I do think they fit, because it is weird how all the guns just suddenly became super retro futuristic in Fallout 4, and it kind of seems like they're moving away from that. Like they realized it probably wasn't the best decision. So this next part, like about the locations, it's not a big plot point, but it is just like another one of those like confusing changes that I wanted to talk about. Probably the most confusing lore changes, and I don't even know necessarily if it is a change, but it has to do with like the locations. So the show really doesn't make it clear where they are. They kind of hint at it a few times. So I actually looked it up to double check. So the show is supposed to all take place around the Los Angeles area. It's not one of those things where they really explicitly tell you, at least not for the longest part. But so one change that's pretty confusing, I would say, is the location of Shady Sands to what was downtown Los Angeles, which if you've played Fallout 1, you would know that like Shady Sands is the closest town to where you start in Fallout 1, and it's this little like adobe town, like the buildings are made out of mud, and I think it's somewhere in like Nevada almost in the first game. Los Angeles is almost across the entire map, but in the TV show they made it look like they're right next to each other, like it was literally just part of Los Angeles before the bombs fell, and then after the bombs fell, it just got like resettled under a different name. You know, kind of like how Good Neighbor and Diamond City are both clearly parts of Boston, but separate settlements in Fallout 4. But I mean, it's really not the biggest deal, and I feel like they could go on to explain that maybe Shady Sands got relocated as the population grew, or, you know, something of that sort, because Shady Sands did become the capital of the NCR. NCR actually came from Shady Sands. That's where the NCR came from, which I'm just saying because I know more people have played New Vegas than have played Fallout 1 and 2. Fallout 2 is like the origins of the NCR and it shows that they came from Shady Sands from Fallout 1. But yeah, I mean, it just overall the show's decent. It's definitely far from like amazing, but it is a show that stays mostly true to the lore, and it is a show that if you don't know anything about the lore, you just sit down and watch and it'd be enjoyable, I think. You know, my girlfriend watched it with me. She knows a little bit about the lore, but not like a ton. And she was pretty confused like in the first episode, but she started to understand it as the show went on. You know, one thing I think is weird is that they didn't tie in like a DLC for Fallout 4 or expansion for Fallout 76 in with the show. I feel like there's a lot that they could have done with it, because like the player counts are way up right now because of the show. It just seems weird that they didn't like really capitalize on it, especially because I mean they knew about all the like little things about the show before the show came out. It's just weird that they didn't do that. Like if they had like a paid DLC for Fallout 4, I'm certain a lot of people would be paying for it right now. You know, there's lots of like content in the show that isn't in the games that they could add in the games in an interesting way. It's just weird that they didn't. Maybe season 2, maybe it's all stuff planned for Fallout 5, who knows? Because yeah, I mean the timing of the show just doesn't make much sense to me, because like the next Fallout game, as far as we know, isn't supposed to come out until after Elder Scrolls 6, which I mean, by the time that comes out, the show might even be done by then. Like, it doesn't fully make sense to me, like, why they didn't, like, really capitalize on that. You know, even if it was something like a spin-off, like giving Obsidian another go at it, or even another developer an attempt at a Fallout spin-off. You know, like, something I was thinking about last night was they could do, like, a sort of, like, Prey-type game in the Fallout universe. I feel like you could have a really interesting story there that you really couldn't tell with like the traditional Fallout gameplay, but I don't know. That was just an idea I had last night. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. I just wanted to give my thoughts on the Fallout show real quick. Let me know in the comments below how you're liking it, if you've watched it, or you know, if you plan on watching it. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more from me, subscribe. See you next time.
Probably wasn't the best decision.